I hope you don't think that I am saying that Jesus trivializes our trials. I don't think he trivializes them. I think he redefines them. This storm was a big storm. By Jesus calming it, he didn't say it wasn't a big storm. He just showed his power to calm the big storm. He didn't say, oh, guys, that was a wimpy storm. He doesn't say that at all. He could have turned around to them and said, why are you guys so afraid? That was nothing. You guys got to see what I'm going to do when I come back again. He didn't say that to them. He said, why are you still afraid? Do you not believe? You still have little faith. He doesn't trivialize our storms. He redefines them. The other day I was talking with somebody from our church who suffers with unbelievable chronic pain. I mean, when you sit there and you listen to their story, you wonder how they're surviving. They're wondering how they're surviving. And they came to me just in a moment of just incredible weakness. And they said, I know I'm supposed to take my sin to the cross, but how do I take my chronic pain to the cross? How do I drop that on Jesus' shoulders? And in those moments, it's very hard for me to not try and, I don't want to trivialize that. I've been through some chronic pain with my back. And I know what that felt like. I can't imagine what some of the things are that you guys are going through feel like. And I said to them, what was the cross like? When Jesus went to the cross, what was that night like? What was that day like? And they said, very painful. And they knew it, and you could see in their eyes just realizing it. Jesus has been through my pain. And I shared with them, I said, I can't tell you that you can get rid of the pain. You can't get rid of the pain. But I can tell you that you can identify with Jesus in a way that others cannot. In some of our lives, such as this person's life, I said, you're going to have more in common with Jesus' Passion Week than you are with his triumphal entry. And Jesus knows. He's been there. He's been through the passion. He's been through that kind of anguish and that kind of agony, and he doesn't trivialize it. He brings meaning to it. He redefines it. Peter even tells us when you share in Christ's sufferings, you are to rejoice. We're to consider it pure joy. But Peter's even more specific when he says, you are like Christ in those moments. Paul tells us in Galatians 2, I live by faith in this body, by the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. That's how I live my life. And he uses those words, in this body I live by faith. For some of you, that's an incredible trial. And Jesus redefines that trial. You see, the disciples still had to experience the storm and the fear in order to experience the reward of trusting in Jesus. If there is no storm, there's no miraculous calming of the storm. And these disciples were learning bit by bit, there's no storm bigger than Jesus. And you guys, you know what? In the storms, in your trials, in your hurt, in your pain, in our loneliness, in our depression, in our addictions, in our chronic pain, in our suffering, that is when you are closest to Jesus. That's when you are most like Jesus. You get to, and I know this from experience in my own grief, you get to experience God in a way that you might not otherwise be allowed to experience. You're able to understand things about God's character that you might not otherwise understand, like these disciples in the boat. Do you notice there are no crowds around? Do you notice this miracle was ordained by God when it was just the disciples? You notice they left them on the shore. Everything was ordained. This wasn't by chance. This was all part of God's timing, all part of the Father's timing, and Jesus knew that. And you notice who gets to experience that? The closest ones to Jesus.